First Things First is sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve.
Live from New York, it's the show that's obviously not shaving their heads for a bad bet. He's trying to
have some courage in your convictions. I was willing to do it. I've got better hair than you anyway.
Who said that?
America.
No one's ever said that. It's the second hour, First Things First today. Derrick Henry talks about what the Ravens need to do to get to the Super Bowl, challenge the Chiefs. Meanwhile, hold on. Are the Patriots not drafting a quarterback? Does that mean we're going to get a free agent quarterback next year? Strong. But right now, it's time for the most motivational segment in all sports, the Bud List. It's also time we read a little bit of viewer mail, some controversial mail yesterday with Ryan and Brian.
Yesterday or last week?
Well, yesterday sent me a letter. I didn't read it on the air.
Oh, really?
And last week was they apologized.
Oh, okay.
Dear Wilds, love the show. Do you actually think Bill Belichick, so we just talked about this, could end up in Dallas? Cheers. Why are you laughing?
This was so obvious.
What? What's so obvious about it?
Yeah, all right. We'll
Don and Don. Well, thank you, Don. Usually we use this time to talk about funny jokes, but I'm glad we decided to have some real football analysis about Bill Belichick. I told you I don't want to do this bit anymore, but it don't work.
Where's the real me? I posed for 45 minutes. Pictures of me with the cowboy hat on, and they wanted me to flex.
Cowboys don't really
They never show that. Oh my goodness. All right.
There we go.
Let's get to this week's, but the Bud List has been on a roll. You were on it, and the Tiger came out.
Right.
I mean, it's been, consider it an honor to be on this. Nick Sirianni, number 3. I feel bad for Nick Sirianni. Can you imagine yesterday he wakes up, gets his, mug of coffees. I'm going to sit down and read, ESPN.com. And he finds out, reading his story, that his owner had a little bit of interest, it seems, in Bill Belichick. Asked the confidant about Bill Belichick. I mean, my goodness. So he has to be a little bit worried. But look, he was good. Some people thought he should have been on the hot seat last year or after last season. They elected to bring him back. But this year, we know he's on the hot seat. All right. There was interest in Belichick, at least enough to talk to him or talk to others about him. You are an S-Bob team. All right. So and Belichick's only got a few more years to coach anyway. So, Nick, you got to get off to a great start. I'm not saying they bring in Belichick midway through the season, but you got Vic Fangio, who's been a head coach, and Kellen Moore, who a few years ago was the new hotness, maybe viewed as a next head coach. So, Nick, the pressure's on. But the good news is you do have a good team. So, the supernatural funk, I think it's gone.
Oh goodness.
It's gone. Don't worry about that. But I actually believe in you.
Oh,
Nick Wright doesn't.
You didn't really have your heart in that one.
Yeah, Nick, I'm with you. I mean, go ahead and get it done. All right, at number 2, D-Lo.
Oh.
D'Angelo Russell. Now, look, I picked the Nuggets in 6, but I do think you guys, the Lakers, have a decent chance. I mean, I'm saying 20, 25%, but a lot of it rides on your shoulders. LeBron's going to get his points, and the fact that LeBron's going to get his points no matter what means you should not defer. The Lakers season, in some part, turned when D'Angelo started saying it and LeBron him told, just do you. Be aggressive. Don't just look for me and AD. Keep that mentality. AD's going to play well most of the time. LeBron's going to play well. You got to play well. And we know your playoff history's not good. Even last year, played okay in the first round against Memphis. Declined a little bit against Golden State.
And then
a no-show. 13% from 3, 6 points a game against Denver. If the Lakers going to have any chance of winning this, you have to be the man. And you talk about having ice in your veins. Here's your time, D-Lo, to show that you actually do. You can change your whole narrative in LA and for your whole career.
That's right.
If you go out there and get it done. I'm iffy, but you might be able to get it done.
Okay.
All right, at number 1. Joel Embiid. And this is, look, Wilds is going to be softer on you than I am. He showed that earlier in the show.
I do.
All right. I'm saying this. No excuses.
Oh.
No excuses. I get it. You're not 100%. But you know what? At this point, you never 100%. Not in the playoffs. And now that you're 30, when in the world are you going to be 100% in the playoffs? I don't know, because you had 2.5 months off for rehab, played 5 regular season games, and got injured again. So this is your lot. You're the guy in the playoffs that unfortunately is at about 70, 80%. And that's just how we're going to have to judge you. But we're not going to make it an excuse if you guys go out again unceremoniously, prematurely in the playoffs. So, Joel, I do believe in you. I mean, I picked the Knicks, but still, I think you can go. I want to see you go out there and reverse this whole playoff narrative that you drop off in the postseason. You do, but let's see you go ahead and get it done. I want to believe in you. I want to believe in you, Joel.
Brew, before I even add mine, can I just buttress your point on Embiid? This is the graphic I was referring to earlier. This is the full list of MVPs who haven't won a title. But Barkley, Malone, Harden, Iverson, and Russ made a finals. Obviously, Nash and Derrick Rose made multiple conference finals for Nash, one for Rose and got injured. Embiid's the one guy who's never even been to the NBA's version of the Final Four. It is a wild list to be on because it's just him. And honestly, the guys who haven't made the finals, Nash, people kind of put asterisk mental ones at least next to his second MVP. Derrick Rose, we know he just got hurt. For Embiid's got to find a way at some point to get off that list, so I think that's a great point, Brew. I would like to add Robert Kraft to the Bud list. I encourage everyone to go read Dan Wetzel's column on Yahoo Sports today. Dan, as well as being a great children's book author, is still, when he wants to, as good of a kind of takedown artist in the column space, back like the great columnists of Brew's heyday were. And he makes, I think, a brilliant case, basically saying, what are you doing? It's not just that a team that was worth less than $200 million when you bought it's now worth close to $6 billion. It's that you, Robert Kraft, clearly enjoy the limelight. Friendship with Meek Mill. You were just on The Shop, I saw it. You're at the white party. You are out here. And you know why you are and Stephen Ross and others aren't? Because you're a dynastic owner. You know why you are a celebrity owner? Because of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. And you know why we know who Tom Brady is initially? Because Bill Belichick drafted him and had the audacity to then put him into the starting lineup. And I think I know why, because there's a very curious part of the Dynasty docuseries, which checks notes was produced by Kraft Dynasty LLC, seemed to glaze over one important part of the Dynasty back-to-back championships, because that's the part that really has Bill Belichick's fingerprints the most on it. So if that's not enough, and you staring into the camera and saying Bill's basically a pain in the ass and really trashing him through the series as the villain of it, you are now going out of your way to cost him jobs. You're not making one phone call to the owner of the Falcons, Arthur Blank. You're making 2. You are reportedly going to Washington and doing due diligence there, as opposed to trying to help out a guy who helped make you literally billions of dollars and famous. So I am putting Robert Kraft on the Bud list, not as motivation, but as an indictment. And I would be very careful, if I were Robert Kraft, in full-on alienating a coach who I think is petty, vindictive, and still has his fastball. Because I think that's what he's done, and I think Bill Belichick is going to make it a priority to remind Robert Kraft as long as he can how great of a coach he really is, so he's under duress.
Look, that's fair. The one thing in the article that gave me pause, because I see it a little differently, is him calling people. Now, had they called him, left a message, or were they in some sort of dialogue early?
Billionaire.
If I'm calling you like, oh,
going out of my way,
that's the one thing. Otherwise, though, if we're tight, and that's a big part of it too, how close is he to Arthur Blank? If they're boys and they're really tight, I do feel like you kind of owe him the truth. Like, look, you gonna win, but you can't trust him. And do what you want to do. I mean, I'm not mad at that. You got to be honest with your friends.
Was he stealing office supplies?
I think can't trust him is Bill Belichick saying that he was content coaching within the lines. That eventually he was going to be like,
GM.
hey, we have to redo this and redo that and redo this, and all of a sudden.
Right.
God forbid you win in Atlanta.
Tell
Atlanta's
me
like,
about
that's not how we do it.
Well,
here.
yeah, Atlanta should be willing to take a little advice from Bill. I will say that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They should be willing to do that.
I'm putting the Warriors on the Bud list. And Josh and I were grinding the all 10. Every game of the Warriors year from last year's exit to last night's.
You'd have fit right in that spaces.
And eventually, well, I'm not like you just watching 40 games.
Yeah, I mean,
I got to start.
Yeah.
Eventually, I was like, Josh, you know what? Turn off the film projector. The answers that we're looking for are not on the film. You know what it is I had to rely on, Brew? Vibe doctor. Which is really my expertise, being the vibe doctor. So I had to go back to my old GQs, where I take a lot of my style cues from. Here's a quote from, I think it's from Steph. I'm sure that Coach Kerr never thought he'd be cool with letting somebody shoot from 35 feet. Now this is commonplace. This is from 2017. Without thinking about it. But he respects emotion, and he's made playing with joy one of the core principles of the team. And when Kevin Durant went there, he always talked about playing with joy. Yep. And that Warriors team really played with a joy and a happiness. So now I ask you, do you think that this year's team played with a lot of joy? Steph was crying on the court. Clay got into some altercations on the court, very un-Clay-like, and talked about how he had to talk to Steve Kerr and they had to find the joy for the game again. Draymond literally had to go and try to figure out his emotional state and how to keep the edge. So the team reminds me of a couple that loves each other, but might not be in love with each other. They love each other, but the joy of the Warriors that used to define the dynasty seems to be gone. Okay. And I just, as the vibe doctor, that's my diagnosis.
Is there a fix?
Well,
I don't know if you can find the joy.
Well, he's been a critical part of the dynasty, obviously. But the joy left with the sucker punch.
You think there's no more joy after that?
Yes.
I mean, that's when it starts, right?
Agree.
You sucker punch somebody, it's going to be hard
right.
to have joy.
It's, in that couple analogy, if it's like, well, what happened? It's like, well, when you beat up my brother, it really didn't help the situation.
It hasn't been joy since.
It's been a little awkward at Thanksgiving, especially after TMZ got the tape of it.
Right.
Like, oh, bro, look behind you.
That's the one. I spent 45 minutes after the show one day.
What was going on with your head?
Got to the Odd Couple late.
Your head is too low on your torso.